webinar is brought to you by ACI Learning. Be bold, train smart. Also brought to you by Technado, your source for the latest in tech news. New episodes drop today and every Thursday at 10 a.m. And of course, don't forget Wild West Hackin' Fest coming up in October. The team from ACI Learning will be there the 8th through the 12th. Technado live from Wild West Hackin' Fest. It's going to be a great time. We hope you come out and join us. Thanks so much for joining us for this week's All Things Cybersecurity webinar. I'm Sophie Goodwin here with Daniel Lowrie. It's going to be a great time. We're going to be able to... It's been a long time, it feels like, but I know it's only been a month.
It was supposed to be last week, but that was the 4th of July, so we kind of pushed it a week. So it has been a long time, technically. Yeah. Yes.
But it does feel longer because we just get busy. We're recording, and so
it's summertime too, right? Yeah, there's a lot going on.
And the living's easy, so you know how it is. Yeah. But I'm excited to answer some questions, or you guys will be answering some questions, and maybe I can offer some input. I don't know. But I'm excited to hear what y'all have to say this week, what questions you have for us and for our very special guest, right, Daniel?
That's exactly right, because today's guest is very special. First time on the program. Mm-hmm. So let's have a warm welcome for none other than the one and only Infosec Pat. Welcome, Patrick Gorman. How are you doing today, sir?
Good. How about yourself? Thank you guys for having me today.
We're super excited to have you, bro. It was really fun. We kind of got to know each other at B-Sides in Tampa this year, and then Hackspace Con. We got to continue that conversation, and we've been like texting and just kind of like I've enjoyed making your acquaintance, Pat, and having you as like somebody I can talk to about what we do. And you always have some really great insights to this stuff. So because you know a thing or two about a thing or two, you've been around the block once or twice. So I'm super stoked to have you on the show.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Yeah, and the feeling is mutual. Love having you as an acquaintance, friend, big brother, whatever you want to call it.
I know I'm the old guy in the in the groups now.
I wasn't gonna say it.
When did that happen?
You can say it. I wasn't gonna say it.
Yeah, but you were thinking it hard. I could feel it.
A little bit. It's it's the wisdom though. It's not. It's not gray in your beard. It's wisdom.
Yeah, is that what the kids are calling it nowadays?
Sure.
Yeah,
to make you feel better. Yeah. It's nice though. It's like having
back in my day, we didn't have these fancy terminal emulators.
That's the way it was, and we liked it.
That's right. You had to engrave it on a tablet and give it to a chimpanzee who ran it across the room.
That's beautiful.
That would have been a wonder. That whole scenario needs to happen in animation style.
Aren't you so glad you joined us, Patrick? It's going to be great.
Pat's like, what show have I dropped into?
Well, we're looking forward to getting some questions pulled in from folks. We've got people watching on YouTube, LinkedIn. I believe we have a Zoom link as well for folks to watch on. So we'll start getting those questions rolling in a little bit. But Daniel, I know you usually have a question you like to pose at the start of these things.
You know, I do. And it's a standard question that I typically throw at each one of our guests. It's the same question because I think it's a very pertinent question. But I honestly feel it in some extent, I actually know the answer. So I'm gonna spoiler alert this and say, ooh. So Pat, recently you posted on LinkedIn that you passed the Practical Network Penetration Tester exam certification from TCM. How was that? What did you think about that? I'd love to get your thoughts and opinion on that specific certification because we both know Heath pretty well. Super great guy. He's been on the show. We've hung out with him at conferences and just, we both had a pretty good relationship with Heath and TCM. So I will be interested in hearing your thoughts and opinions now that you've actually gone through that crucible.
Yeah, that's an awesome question. I think it was an awesome exam. Kudos out to TCM, Heath, whoever put together that exam. I don't know why I took so long to take it. I guess it was just imposter syndrome because I'm not like pen testing every single day. So I'm like, I need to practice more on XYZ, need to practice more on this. And like I said in my PMPT review video, like it was very, very straightforward and easy, to be honest. I think it's easy because I thought about it as an actual pen test. If you're looking around for flags, if you're going into it as a CTF, you're going to get stuck. And I think that's where people fail. And, I don't know how long everyone else takes to do it, but I did the exam in 3 hours, was able to get a foothold into the environment and get DA in 3 hours. And so I think 5 days is a great amount of time to do that exam. So I loved it. I loved the fact that, OSCP, in my opinion, is nothing compared because OSCP, because a lot of people compare OSCP and PMPT.
Yeah.
And I think the PMPT is way better just because it's more realistic. You're doing realistic attacks and you're doing OSINT, you're doing initial foothold, you're hacking in from an external perimeter, you're getting into an internal, you have to do really what you do in the real world. And the most important thing was that you have to do the debrief. So you're not only writing a report, now you have to talk to someone and not only talk about, walk through what you did. Now it's like, okay, now you found, for an example, XYZ exploit. How can you remediate it? Because you're talking to a client. They're mocking a client, right? So you have to give them a remediation plan as well. So it was really, really tight. Kudos to TCM. I loved it.
Yeah, that has been what I've heard all about this exam since day one. I remember when Heath dropped that exam and finally released it to the public. I was one of the first people on my YouTube channel to kind of like report on the fact that it was available. And, I was looking over every piece of information that they had put out about it. And I was like, this, I felt like the Mandalorian. This is the way, right? Like this is, this is what we should be doing. And then kind of going back to the whole, is it an apples to apples comparison to OSCP? I think in some ways it is, in some ways it's not. I think in the ways it's not is more important than how it is, right? Because like you said, it's not a CTF. When it's a crying shame, the fact that, well, yes, OSCP has long been kind of the gold standard for if you want to get into pen testing. That's kind of the certification that is, I'm not saying it is the key to getting in, but it can be definitely very, very helpful. But the fact that they've got you in that mindset where you're in a CTF, unless I want to do a CTF, I don't want to do a CTF. I want to do pen testing, right? And that was my biggest issue with OSCP was that's what they were kind of making you do. And now they've got people trained to kind of think that way. And when you go into PMPT, that can hang you up because it's not that. This is like a legit, you are doing a penetration test. While it might not be the most, you might not be doing crazy, cool, vulnerabilities and hacks and having to change, code and stuff, POC code that you find on the internet. That's realistic though. And that I think is more valuable for people. Well, I mean, are you agree with that?
Yeah, absolutely. Because I think because I did the OSCP many years ago and I still couldn't hack myself out of a box, right? It's pretty much, I don't know how it is now, but it was like a whole bunch of vuln-hub machines with buffer overflows in one network. And you just get into one, pivot into the next, get into that one, blah, 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 blah. But now, when you actually go into a pen test, it's not the same thing. They don't teach you OSINT. Right. They don't teach you realistic exploits. Especially back then, there was really no Windows machines.
Right. It was all basically like web apps, right?
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. So you get into a website, you SSH to another one, you go into a desktop and you go get the proof.txt and take a snippet of it, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
And the fact that I think it's really stressful because you have 24 hours to do this. And it was just that can give a lot of people anxiety just knowing that. I think that's where I think the TCM and OffSec, the big differentiator because, 5 days is very generous. I got to say 5 days is a great amount of time. So, the fact that you can just chillax and just do it and just like your pen test, right? Maybe you might be able to compromise compromise a network, with in a matter of seconds because you just call someone and they give you the password and now you get into OWA and you get into their environment and then you bypass their MFA and then blah, blah, blah. You can own their, Azure AD or whatever. So, or if you're doing an Azure pen test, I guess a lot of stuff is interconnecting with Azure now. So that's why I brought that up. But yeah, I loved it. And now I'm going to start, I want to see if I can get some traction and start doing the junior web app and then the web app one that they just released.
My next ones on my list. Next steps for you is going to the web app route. And I mean, it's a really good stuff. I think we were talking yesterday about this too. You were also telling me you might be looking at some red team certs as well.
Yeah. So the CRTP, Certified Red Team Professional, and maybe the CRTO. But the thing is, I'm not working with, Cobalt Strike or C2s every day. So it's like, am I going to do that? I'd rather do maybe like Dante and then like the CTPS or whatever, the Hack the Box.
Oh yeah, the
certified
Hack the Box exams. Yeah, they're
test
great.
specialist. Yeah, and I heard really, really good things about that. So I guess like the preliminary step to do that is like do the Dante route or that Pro Labs from.
Yeah, the Pro Labs in there. Yeah.
Yep. So I haven't done it. So
Offshore
everyone
is another
says
one, I think, right?
Offshore, yep.
Yeah.
Offshore, yep. And cybernetics or something like that. There's a few of them in there. And but I think Dante is the one that gets you prepped for the the certified
the CPTP or whatever it is.
CPTPS or something.
Yeah, it's something. I'm horrible with acronyms, man. Ask Sophie, she's always like, we'll do like a series or something. If it's acronym heavy, I'm just like, this is the acronym. I'm not really strong on what that means.
You can read. I'm not gonna read it for you because I'll mess it up.
Yeah, that's what they make Google for, right?
Yeah. Alphabet soup. Yeah.
Well, that's really cool, man. I'll be excited to see your experience on those as well. So we'll just make sure to stay in touch. I'm currently in the middle of the CRTO.
Are you really?
Yeah, I'm taking the training. I'm not sure whether or not I'll take the exam, but I like you were saying, Pat was telling me, just take it, just do it.
Yeah.
I'm like, maybe the exam experience is worth it, just to say at least I did the exam.
Sure.
And I can be able to speak to that, so I probably will.
Yeah, I'm gonna take the Pen Test Plus beta just to get the experience.
Look at you! Look at this one over here.
I'm gonna try. I'm gonna do my best.
You're going for the Pen Test Plus. I'm so happy.
I'm not gonna pass.
My baby girl's all grown up.
But that's okay. Even if I don't pass, that's okay. I know we have some courses on Pen Test Plus in the library and stuff. I just thought it would be nice to know going forward like what that exam looks like. But you're right, just for the exam experience, it's not a bad idea to do that kind of
stuff. Plus,
stuff.
it's like, I'm a big proponent of failing forward, right? I love to like just go get the experience, and then it kind of, if I go in expecting to just fail and not worry about it, then it takes a lot of pressure off of me. And I understand that it's easier said than done because there's a price tag associated with retakes. So I really appreciate that about TCM as well, that they offer second chance. It's every exam you take is a second chance to it. So taking that pressure off of you, allowing you to just kind of sit down, do your best, see where you're weak if you are at all, and if you failed, no problem. Take a week and study your butt off. Go to those spots where you were rough and get better, and then go at it again, and then get success. Heath always said, I don't want to. And I love this about TCM. I love this about Heath and his philosophy on his business is he doesn't want to succeed off of his clients' failures. I thought that was brilliant, and totally agreed with that, and do agree with that to this day. So kudos to TCM for making such a great exam, and to give competition, which is good for us as the consumer, to the other certs that are out there, gaining a bunch of recognition and doing a lot of that. So really great stuff. Well, we've had a good time so far.
You have.
Yeah.
You ready to end the webinar?
Yeah, I guess we'll call it a day.
That sounded
this
like
has been good, everyone. Thanks for joining.
That was like what Midwesterners do, and it's like, well, guess we should probably head on out. That's what that sounded like to me. Yeah, go get out of your hair.
Hit the old dusty trail.
But we haven't even, other than the question that you had, but we haven't even hit the first question. So we are
So we can just keep going. Cool.
Yeah, we can just keep going.
This gives us free form.
Doesn't
to
it?
continue to just conversate and go where we made.
Just
well, what's anything specific on anybody's mind? Let's take it there. Let's open the forum.
So I wanted to mention that Simply Cyber has rated the chat. They are they've decided that they are going to jump in.
Oh, don't worry. Then it won't be long. It'll be.
Well, no, they did. They dropped a couple questions.
Oh, we got some already?
Yeah,
okay.
we did. They came in. They were like, oh, we got questions. So now we've got some stuff to work with here. It just took a little bit to get the ball rolling. So if you guys are ready.
We got to prime the pump.
I got questions.
Yeah, well, hit me.
All right.
Hit us.
Yeah, this is a group effort. This is a group project.
Don't actually hit me, though. That's a figure of speech, by the way.
I know better than
She's
that.
very literal.
I have a healthy fear of you. I know better.
I'll start the blink code. She is hurting us.
You're an abusive household. You're fine.
No.
So, we did get a couple questions. So we can start with this one from Jerry Ozier's watching. Thank you so much for joining us, Jerry. So it's great to see you in the chat.
I call him Jer Bear.
I'm sure you do. I'm not going to do that. Jerry wants to know, how has your OSINT game changed over the last few years? # Team Simply Cyber.
Oh, that's an interesting question. Good job, Jerry. Leave it to Jerry to come up with the out of the gate hardball here. So yeah, Pat, what would you say has been like your biggest shift in OSINT work when it comes to doing that for you, at least?
Yeah, so that's a good question. I really got into oh man, now I'm drawing a blank. There's an operating system. I made some videos on it, and setting up like sock puppet accounts. I never really done all that like prior to maybe I had my own just
Right.
to do some spy stuff, and just like when I'm doing an engagement, I don't have to go on to my own accounts. But as far as like changing the game, yeah, it's just scary. Like we can just make a change. What is it like? Not a this person does not exist.com or something like that, and just make a random person like an AI generated picture, because obviously you want to do that, right? Because you don't want to use someone else's picture.
Nope.
And because then you can just use reverse imaging and then you can find that picture elsewhere. So that's silly. But yeah, all the cool tools that are out there today, it definitely does change the game. And also there's so many tools, right, that we can utilize to gather information, gather intel. And yeah.
I love these like groups that are out there nowadays that you can join and be a part of, learn OSINT, that are just in Discord channels or wherever the community is kind of lurking around at, and they will help you kind of up your OSINT game really quickly, introduce you to a lot of stuff, and then get you in on like actual using OSINT for the purposes of finding like missing people. And then that's your practice.
Trace labs.
Trace labs. Yes. Perfect. I feel like I met the guy that kind of like put all Trace Labs together at Hackenfest, I want to say.
Really?
Yeah. I want to say that I've bumped into him from time to time in certain
Trace
places.
Labs sounds really familiar.
Yeah. Maybe it was Hack Space Con even.
I feel like I did see that name at Wild West. I could be remembering wrong though. Somebody will correct me, I'm sure.
But totally, OSINT has just exploded with high quality tools, techniques, and then that is just so openly available because people find it fascinating, right? And it is. Honestly, it's super fascinating to be able to go, hey, let's find people. Let's see what we can discover on the internet using these really cool tools that can kind of do some of the harder lifting for us. What's your favorite OSINT tool?
Ooh.
Oh man. It all depends on what I'm doing. I guess like Google dorking, to be honest, because that's using the different operators to find different things. But in Trace Labs, I literally use that a lot if I'm doing any and I haven't done it in a couple months, that I haven't really dug deep into it until I was making those videos. We have a Trace Labs. There's InstaFinder. Like if you want to do stuff on Instagram, I think it's InstaFinder. I think it's on GitHub. And I guess it all depends on, what I'm doing. Maltego is another tool that I've, tinkered with. And then you can just go on to the webs, right? All these sites like Phonebook, or is it phonebook.x, YXZ or something like that.
Yeah.
There's so many tools. And I guess it all depends. I leave it up to Google. I don't remember every single thing. I just have a lot of like my OSINT folder in my browser.
In it.
My bookmarks.
Dude,
exactly.
My bookmarks are insane. If I were to ever lose access to my login for my browser, I would be hosed, because all the work I put into those bookmarks and like organizing it and keeping it curated, it's just hundreds of man hours to make that happen. Yeah. But yeah, I use Maltego as well. I think Maltego is a really for all the things you can do organizationally, kind of keep everything organized and going with all the transforms and the elements that they have available that you can kind of run on that. I've taught with that quite often as well. It's a really good tool. It's kind of a bit of a monolith. It's huge, and it takes a little learning to get your head around if you're actually going to use it to do OSINT with. Also like Recon NG as a tool. Recon NG. Yeah.
OSINT framework is another one.
OSINT framework is great. It really give you the ability to do anything, but it points you to all these amazing tools. It's like a mind map of all these amazing tools. Really great piece of software. So cool.
Well, I believe you. I get to
Shodan.
see like
I guess Shodan is another one.
Yeah, and then Zoomeye. Are you familiar with Zoomeye?
Zoomeye, yeah.
It's like a Chinese Shodan.
Oh.
Yeah, it's sponsored by China.
I don't know if I've ever seen you use that one before.
Because I haven't.
Okay. Well, there you go.
I typically steer away, but it is useful for doing OSINT because.
Fair enough.
Hey,
that's fair.
I've got Shodan and Census. What do I need with Zoomeye, right?
Yeah. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. I get it. But most of the other tools you mentioned, I feel like I've at least heard you talk about or seen you use like in episodes and stuff before.
And Zoomeye has kind of like recently become really kind of one of the more useful tools lately.
Okay. Well, if I ever have to do OSINT in China, I will keep that in mind. I don't think I'll ever have to do that.
You don't have to be in China to use it.
No, you definitely do. Now that you've said that, now you definitely do.
She's getting your passport filled out right now. Let's see here. The flight to Beijing is.
I'll do it. You think I won't?
I think you're scared.
We've got if you guys are feeling good about this one, we've got even more questions.
Oh,
how you feeling?
What else are we gonna do, right?
Okay.
Otherwise, I'd just be sitting here staring at my screen
without the attitude,
twiddling my thumbs.
Okay. Message received. We've got questions coming in on Zoom. This person wants to know. They said they've spent 2 years learning cyber on their own, but are lost on getting hands-on experience and the next steps. Should I find a mentor? How do I do that?
This is a phenomenal question, and I think probably everybody in this chat and anybody watching this or watches the recording of this is probably the biggest piece of gold that you could get from anybody that has an answer to this question. So I'm obviously, because we have our guests, we all want to give deference to my guests and let them answer. Pat, what would you say is the best way for someone who has got some cyber skills? They know some cyber skills, but I want to be able to put on my resume the word experience with, or the words experience with. What would your advice be for someone to do that?
Yeah, and I can answer that, and I think that's my specialty right here. I love Hack the Box. I love Try Hack Me, but in my God honest opinion, how you're going to really get that hands-on is building a lab. It might sound cliche, it sounds like everyone's doing it, but the differentiator is not only the cyber skills, right? You're learning how to set up, like, when I say set up a lab, it's like, this is my lab, right? This, when I'm mentoring, when I'm setting up, when I'm at conferences, and my pen test lab or cyber lab is this. It's 6 machines, right? You have PF Sense, you have Waza, which is a SIM XDR EDR. You have 2 Windows machines. You have your Kali machine and a domain controller. Why? Because you're going to have to understand both sides, and then you're going to have to understand how network traverses data. Right? What is NAT? What is bridge? What is a host only? When you set up 2 NICs so you can have host only traffic, then you still may need to pull some stuff with your Kali machine using NAT, or I would never use host only because that's going to be dedicated to your dedicated host on your machine. So if you're messing with malware, you want to have that contained in that sandbox environment. But that's always the best advice, the best advice that I always say, to get really that hands-on. Now, when you can take that to your resume, you don't only know, Active Directory and setting up your Windows machine, setting up Waza agents, looking at when you hack it, when you just do basic SSH or Telnet or whatever. Now you can have an alarm set up, or set up an Nmap scan to your Windows machine. Now Waza agent is going to flag that. You get that EDR, XDR, whatever SIM solution, SIM experience, and the whole shebang. You set up Active Directory from scratch. You're not just using a Hack the Box or someone that's already setting it up. So when you're attacking it, you really know how it works. What is ADDS? What is DNS? Right? What is that stuff that's really working behind the scenes? What is a FSMO role? What is a schema? Like all that stuff when you're attacking AD. That's just my take. And should you find a mentor? I think everyone should have a mentor. And how? Do your due diligence. I don't want to say come to me or go to someone, because that's not my position. Just go look on the internet and see who you feel like things resonate with you and how you are. and maybe reach out to them and just ask, hey, like, I love your work. I love what you do. I have some questions, and maybe you can jump on a call. And if you want to talk anytime, I'm open.
Well, follow-up question. I love your work and I love what you do. Pat, will you be my mentor? I will. I need that mentor. I've never actually had a mentor.
Really?
I've just scratched tooth and nail to learn everything that I've learned. And I think that's probably like my biggest misstep in my career, is that I never reached out to anybody to ask them to mentor me. I think that is the best thing you can do, is find somebody that has the time and is willing to kind of invest in you. And obviously that's going to take some time to find that right person, but it is super helpful to have someone be able to bounce ideas off of. I mean, a lot of times you think I go home and talk to my wife and kids about what I do for a living? They have no concept of what's going on in the lab environments and stuff that you were just talking about. Like if I mentioned Waza or any of the other tools, PFs, they're just looking at me, oh, that's nice. That's really great. Yeah. Right. And that's one of the reasons I like to go to conferences, because that is exactly where I get that kind of stuff.
Fill that void.
I spend a lot of time on LinkedIn because my community is there. Every now and then I get to jump in on the Simply Cyber crew and hang out with them, and they all speak that language. And it's kind of nice to congregate with my quote unquote tribe of people, and have those conversations. So that's where I kind of get it. Ultimately, I think that is a great idea. And then going back to the lab thing, the lab is the number one thing. This is why, yes, Hack the Box is great, and Try Hack Me is great, and all the other lab environments that are out there are really good. But for you to be able to say, and then this is, it kind of brings up an interesting follow-up, a real follow-up, is I can hear the people saying, okay, I can say I have experience with Waza, and I can say I have experience with pfSense and all the other tools that you said, but they want me to have, 2 to 3 years experience. I have, for me, and I want to get your take on this because I got you here. So this ought to be an interesting hot take from Pat.
Ooh.
Is, I like how he's smiling on this, is I feel like, while yes, they put in, they want this 1 to 3 to 5 years or whatever the case is, experience for these entry-level cybersecurity jobs, I feel like what they're really saying is, I want you to have been in IT for some time with knowledge and some hands-on experience with security. And that's what we're talking about. Maybe I'm off on this, but I watch a lot of conversations that go around this particular question. Would you say to the person who is asking this particular question that if you do have some IT background and you have that lab, that's going to be your 1 to 3 years experience or whatever?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I say this, and I just talked to someone last night. I'm mentoring someone. We had a call last night, and I use this analogy, and it's a true analogy, and it's a true story. I had a friend in college, because when I didn't go right to university. I went to a tech school first, and then I would transfer to a university. And he was studying automotive, right? And he got a job, he got his ASC certifications, and he started working at Toyota. And he was 21 years old, 22, I think. He was 21 or 20, something like that. And then obviously you have the old heads there, like maybe in their 40s, like that'll have 100 years experience. But this kid will run circles around because he's taking apart engines at home. He's building new Civics. He's installing turbos, installing exhaust systems, downpipes, and all this crazy stuff, right? That the guys at the office or at the shop is just like doing Toyota, right? Yeah. This kid's taking apart Civics, Integras, 240s, Subarus, the whole shebang. So going back to what you were saying, like the whole 1 to 3 years, I've met folks, we talked about prior to the show, Jacob, maybe he's tuning in. I have a lot more years of experience than him, but that kid can run circles around me with certain things, right? And so that whole 1 to 3 years and the whole experience, I don't really pay attention to that, because I pay more attention to what's actually on the job description. And this is another thing I want to add to that. If I want to go back to my networking days, right? When I just got CCNA, CCNP, and all the Cisco certs that I've taken, when I was really Cisco heavy, right? And I remember I applied for a job just before I got into the world of cyber, it was like my last network security engineering role. They were heavy into WatchGuard. No, excuse me, Checkpoint. Checkpoint. So I'm like, I don't have Checkpoint experience, but I have ASA experience. I know how firewalls work. I know how data traverses, and I just don't know where the tick boxes are. And, you know, and in Checkpoint, you have static and dynamic natting and all this stuff. So it's a little different. And I said at the end of the interview, I remember this like it was yesterday. It was interesting. I don't know if this was what set me apart. I don't know, because I'm a very straight shooter. I really don't care. Like, I just speak what's on my mind. I'm going to try not to. I'm going to try to keep it PG. But I just like at the end of the interview, I was like, yo, like, let me do. It was the Checkpoint Certified Security Administrator, CCSA. I was like, if I get this in 30 days, I'm not going to do 90 days. I'll get this in 30 days. And you bring me on board. I get this thing. I'll set it up at home. And if I don't get it, you fire me. Get rid of me. I don't give a fuck. You know what I mean? Like, I don't care. So I was like, bam, like, they hired me. Like, they like, when can you start? I love your attitude. And I got the exam. I took the test like a week later. So, and obviously it was, I want to put something on there, right? I didn't learn it in 1 week. I took the exam in 1 week. This is a difference. So this is where, going back to where we first started, the practical certifications like PMPT, you can't learn that in 1 week.
No way.
Right? But you can, I'm not going to lie. I don't lie, right? So I crammed it in 1 week. I went to a dump and I crammed it for a week and I learned it and I passed an exam. But I actually learned it in probably 6 months, right? To be honest, like, I like to be, I'm always fucking transparent. So, you know, I'm not one of those people that say, oh, you know, I took the cert and I know it all. Nah, fuck that. You know what I mean? No, I don't do that. So yeah, that was that. So I don't even know. I'm going on a rant. Just like we talked about
He's off the rails, ladies and gentlemen. We've lost you, Pat. Come back. Head for the light. No, I think it's very pertinent. I've experienced that myself. I had a friend of mine. He got a job with F5, and he said, I've never done any of this stuff with the load balancers. Nope, never touched it, but I can learn it and I can do it. I guarantee you. And they hired him based off of his bravado. Honestly, that his confidence in himself that he could do it, and they were like, go for it. And he became one of their senior techs and ran like all the networks for American Idol and like the US voting services and stuff. It was like crazy. I'm like, that's awesome. That's right. Sick. So you got to just be willing to say, yeah, I don't know that particular thing, but I know about that particular thing and I can learn that. Because I have a brain that works, and you just got to give me the time and capability, and I'll get it taken care of. All right. Well, I know we got more questions, so let's get to those.
Oh, we do. Oh, do we ever have more questions? I accidentally skipped over one from YouTube, so I want to go back to that. Yeah, it's a brain foggy day. Brent on YouTube says, any advice you can give on taking better notes and report writing?
Ooh, making good reports, man. That's a real skill. Got to be honest with you. And if you can master this, if you can do a really good job at creating good reports, you will find plenty of work. So, Pat, what's your kind of modus operandi as far as like making a good report, and what are the elements that go into a good report?
Yeah. So, the first step, the first part of this, taking good notes. I was never good at taking good notes, to be honest. And my note taking was just like screenshots when I was doing like commands. So I used Obsidian, I've used Notion, I've used OneNote, and how I do mine is, now I'm a lot better, but like before I was really, really shit. But I would just like take the concept, for example, Active Directory hacking or OSINT, like we were talking about, and just say, okay, like within here you have a sub thing and you have all your tools and all your commands and maybe your websites and blah, blah, blah. And I think having that's note taking is, I don't think it's that difficult. It's just like how you take notes. Like, I have a friend that doesn't like, he's more of a network engineer. He doesn't use Visio. He uses his whiteboard. That's how he does his things. And he takes a picture of it. And then that's, then he puts that in his design, because I don't know if he doesn't know how to use Visio, or he's just like, when he's thinking, he has to draw it out. And as far as report writing, this is going to be a God honest truth. Like I said, I only probably wrote 4 reports in my life. PMPT, PJPT, OSCP, and there was one more. And then everything else I use PlexTrack. I use automated systems to actually do the report for me. And I was really, really spoiled from where I was prior. They had, you're the pen tester, and then they had a professional writer doing the reports. Yeah.
So you just kind of sent your notes over to the writer and they took care of writing the report for you?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yes,
that's
sir.
Interesting. Because typically that is a skill that the pen tester is expected to have. So like you said, you got super spoiled.
Yeah. So like, I guess I would do like, I guess it's note taking.
Yeah.
And then I just send like whatever I have and they make it look all pretty.
You know what was one of my best tricks, when I say tricks, tips, I guess is a better word for it, for note taking, was I would take my notes. Let's say I did a bunch of CTFs and I would use that to kind of like practice my note taking. I would go back and reread my notes and try to follow them and like pretend I've received the pen test report as somebody on the security team or the IT crew at whatever XYZ company the pen test report was being built for, and then see if I could recreate and follow the steps. And I found a lot of times where I was like, oh, I assumed a lot of knowledge within that little sentence, and I don't remember exactly what it was that went in. I had to rehack the thing and go, oh, yeah, okay, yeah. Then I'm like, I need to be much more detailed there. So just kind of going back through your own notes, and then that will make you a whole lot better the next time, because you're like, I'm not going to make that mistake again, where I forgot to tell myself, this is how I did that, because a lot of times there will be someone kind of coming behind you and verifying your results and seeing how that works, so that they can go, oh, that is an issue. Okay, I see where that's, and once they figure out how that works, they can now build a better fence to make it more secure. So try to follow your own notes, and if they're leaving you high and dry, you could probably improve that. You'll know where you need to improve.
So what you're saying
if you
is,
can't read your own notes, you're screwed.
Yeah.
That's a good point. That's why I like to type my notes, because my handwriting is awful.
Not that they're illegible.
No, I just mean, okay. I'm saying if I had to write a report like that, which I never have, I type my notes because I can't read my own
Well, I
handwriting.
type my own notes as well.
Oh, do you?
Yes.
Okay.
Who writes notes?
Well, sometimes I do. I like writing like in my planner and stuff. But if I'm like watching a class or something,
if I was studying for a class, maybe
if I'm like having to go super, super fast, then I won't be able to read what I wrote. So I have to type. But if I can take my time, then I'll handwrite because it looks nice. If I can take my time. I'd also say don't use ChatGPT to write your reports, I would imagine. That would be a good rule of thumb.
Wrong.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's all I use, ChatGPT.
That's my bad.
He's the ghostwriter on my.
I know. I know most of the questions we get obviously have to do with some form of cybersecurity. We do have one that's a little bit outside of our normal.
Oh,
if
I'm
that's,
sure.
I mean, just to warn you, you're probably not going to be able to contribute much. I'm sorry, but this one comes to us from Connor on YouTube. Connor wants to know, Patrick, did you think your Panthers were going to blow a 3-0 series lead when the Oilers took you to Game 7?
Oh. Connor.
So we need to keep the gloves up.
Connor McDavid.
Right? Yeah, let's. We're going to
That's
deduct
not
a
my
point.
question. I'm just the messenger.
If you do it again.
Don't shoot the messenger.
For those, obviously Connor McDavid is the captain for the Oilers, so I don't think it's you. But that's an interesting thing. I did actually. When it was 3-3, I was shitting my pants. I'm a Ranger fan.
Oh,
I'm a
you
Ranger
are too?
fan.
Good job, man.
Yeah, I'm a Ranger fan. So obviously I live in South Florida, so I'm like, okay, the Panthers are, I guess my second team. Everyone was like, you're a hater because, the Rangers got beat by the Panthers. But I'm like, okay, I'll deal with it. But yes, to answer your question, I really, McDavid looked like he really wanted to win. And one thing that I can say, what he did, when he didn't, receive his reward, I think that was fucked up. But that's just me. I think that was really unprofessional. I think he should have came out. I know, for me, that's like a sore loser. Yes, he's the best in the world, but the Panthers came on top. So, yeah.
Well, go Panthers. We're proud of our home teams for doing well. It's funny enough. So I also enjoy hockey, even though I'm not from like a New England state or anywhere where hockey originates from. But I got into hockey, I don't know, probably mid-2000s. And I thought, well, the Rangers have been around for a while, and they had Gretzky, so why not them? So I made them kind of my team. And I haven't been able to follow him like I used to, but I still enjoy a good hockey game from time to time.
Huh. I didn't know that about you.
And you don't watch hockey at all, do you?
I went to a hockey game once.
Anathema.
Huh? I'm sorry? I'm not even going to try. I went to a hockey game one time.
Oh, that's funny.
Oh, that's beautiful.
That's awesome.
Wow. I love the little graphics.
That's actually good.
Slide in there.
That's Connor McDavid right there.
Oh, that's him? Yeah.
I kind of figured
for those.
It had to be him for them to put him up on the screen there. Hey, I went to a hockey game once. It was super fun. Like,
Yeah,
just
it's a cool game. It's very fast-paced. And
the fighting was quite fun to watch.
yeah,
And it was like a...
Wes always says, I went to a fight and a hockey game broke out.
I did not expect... I thought the reports of that were exaggerated, and then I went to one. I was like, they were not kidding.
They made rules for a while. I don't know. They're still around, but like they were trying to squash all the fighting.
When this was a minor league too, so maybe it's different depending on the league. It was the Solar Bears. The Orlando Solar Bears.
The Solar Bears in Orlando.
And the Jacksonville Icemen, I think, was the other team.
Lizard Kings is what they used to be.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Right.
Well,
I think that was the Jackson. I think it was the Lizard Kings.
I'm sure you're right. I have nothing to prove you wrong. So.
I couldn't remember now.
Oh, learn something new every day. We are going to be getting to our rapid fire in just a few minutes. I think we got time for one more question before we jump into that segment. So we'll get into that one. Joseph on YouTube wants to know what your study methods and structures look like, because everyone recommends vastly different ways to study.
Osmosis.
Case closed.
It's a viable method. No, I think this is one of those things. It's kind of like report writing, honestly, where while yes, we have a lot of like templates and standards and structures in which we can kind of follow when it comes to building that narrative. That's kind of an individual thing, and that's why you probably get a lot of different study methods and variations therein. But I am very interested in hearing Pat, because obviously you've been successful at a lot of different certifications that people would love to be able to get and have. So just learning from you would be great. What's your kind of methodology when it comes to doing studying?
Yeah, so we'll go back to my most recent, right, for the PMPT. So if you watch my review video, I was very honest, and with what I do is I look at the exam and say, okay, there's going to be some OSINT, there's going to be this, and it's really, really broken down. So you look at the syllabus of any exam, right? But in this case, we'll talk about the PMPT. And what I didn't see much on was like Privesc. Yes, there is some Privesc, but like I didn't watch any of his Privesc videos of Heath. All I watched was the Active Directory section of the PEH, the OSINT, not even all of it, some of it, and then the playbook, the pen test playbook. So maybe I'm a little different, but the way I study is just focus on where I'm shit, right? And if I'm really bad at something, or like if I'm really needed some help with that, I'll just focus on that. And, for the PMPT, like where I thought I needed more improvement is like more on the external side, like, and then getting into the environment, like pivoting in. So like, I can't really reveal too much on the exam, but like, understanding how things work, like maybe you have to get from the outside inside of a network. How would you do that once you have access to like a web server or some kind of server that's on the external perimeter of an environment? So that's something I'm not doing every day. So that's where I studied. So my study tips is know where you're bad, and touch on those steps. So that's really what I do.
I like it.
Again,
that's why things are going to differ. Pat has a lot of experience, so when if he's going for a new exam, why would he focus on things he already knows? And the same is probably true for you, even if you're not as seasoned as Pat is as far as cybersecurity goes, or anybody else for that matter. You do know what you do know. Don't spend all your time in the weeds focusing on that stuff. Gloss through it, make sure there's nothing in there that you're like, oh, yeah, I kind of do have a little problem with that. So if it's like a networking module or something like that, and you've already kind of crossed that Rubicon, no reason to remow the grass.
Yeah,
exactly.
The only time I've ever been like, oh, I need to focus on this, even though I already kind of know it, is if there's different terminology. Because like if you're taking an exam that's like a vendor's whatever, then it's like if they use different, like, well, we actually call it this. It's like, okay, well, everybody else calls it something else.
I'm sorry.
I didn't say it.
I got a little.
I didn't say it.
I'm trying to cut back on the cigarettes.
I'm too young to get sued. I'm not doing that. I'm not. But like in that case, then I'd probably go through and just double check my vocab and be like, all right, I know what the concept is, but what do you think it's called? So that I know what you're going to ask me.
Yeah, and that brings up, I think, some of the, things you could probably take issue with when it comes to different vendors. It's like, why are you calling it this when the entire security world basically calls it that? And we do see a lot of that in certain different vendors. But yeah, do your due diligence, look through and I think this is a very solid strategy from Pat, is find those places you are not good at and focus on it. Spend all your time and effort on doing that. And then I would say, just to add on that for myself, I would add on, once I'm like right before I'm getting exam ready, like let's say I got the exam in 3 days, I'm going to spend those 3 days basically just start to finish reading everything, refamiliarizing myself with every concept, every terminology, all my techniques, all my tools, just kind of like making sure I'm quick with it, having a good cheat sheet in front of me if I'm doing a practical exam. So if I can even copy and paste in some ways, shape, or form. Have all my shells that I know that I tend to work. Everything's ready. Set yourself up for success. Don't be like, oh yeah, where do I keep that stupid shell? Oh, what's that one-liner for grabbing? You do not want that to be your experience. So make sure you just have everything organized and ready, set to jet, and you should do well.
Yep.
I couldn't have said it better myself, probably because I don't have that information. So I'm glad you have it, not even though I don't. So I know we've gotten through quite a few questions. We do still have a handful more to get through. So I think it's about time for our rapid fire segment. Let's take a look. Well, if you've joined us before, you know the drill. But if not, Patrick and Daniel are going to have 30 seconds.
No, not Daniel.
Not Daniel.
Patrick.
Oh, that's right. You're going to help deliver.
I'm going to help you deliver the questions.
Okay. Well, then Patrick's on the spot. Yeah, I'm trying to throw you in there. Patrick's on the spot. He's going to have 30 seconds to answer each of these questions. We've got a timer up there in the corner. Hopefully, he can beat the clock. You ready?
Yes. Patrick, are you ready, sir?
Let's go.
All right. First question. Is CISA Plus a good place to start as a complete cyber beginner?
No, I would go with Security Plus before that.
Okay.
And CISA Plus is definitely good if you want to get it more into the blue teaming. And yeah, that would be, I know we have time and I know I don't want to go on no rant. So Security Plus I would do before CISA.
Agree with that, by the way. Okay. Just FYI. If I do have time, I will chime in.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, that's definitely for more of a seasoned professional looking to do like SOC analyst work and not just I'm a total noob. I know nothing. You're going to be lost on CISA.
I'll take notes on that.
Yeah.
Another question from YouTube. Entry-level pen testing cert, Pen Test Plus or CEH? So which is the better?
PJPT. That's something, because more of my thing is practical. Both of those, I don't have Pen Test Plus, so I can't speak on that, but I have CEH, and I didn't learn much. I just learned a lot of theory. Yes, they have their practical side, but I would just go PJPT if you're really entry level, and it gives you an understanding of internal assessments. And then once you understand that, then you'll get more into the external side.
Okay. Wow. Right on time.
Agree to agree.
Okay. Good to know.
I think Pentest Plus is better than CEH, but it's not an either or. There are plenty of options, and
sure.
PJPT.
If you had to pick one or the other of those,
is a very good option. Yes.
Okay. Thank you for the input. Sam on Zoom wants to know, if you could go back to the beginning of your career, what would you tell yourself?
Ooh. Take your time. Take your time trying to learn stuff and really understand it. That would be my advice, because I was trying to rapidly understand everything, because I've taken over 100 exams at this point in my career. And that's what I would do if I was to start over. Chillax, Pat, and really understand what you're doing before you continue to the next topic.
All right. Right on time, too.
Nailed it.
You got a couple questions for us, Daniel?
He's getting good at this. Yeah, I got one. Let's see here. It says, this comes from Chris on Zoom. They ask, I've watched tons of courses on IT Pro and Try Hack Me, but taken no certs yet. I want to become a pen tester. What's the best path? 30 seconds.
Oh, yeah. So I love TCM. TCM is really, really good. And especially like if you want to become a pen tester, you can just do like their PEH course, Practical Ethical Hacker. You could start there, and then you can branch out from there if you want to do web app. They have so many things. You know, ACI has so many things. So just browse around and see what's your flavor of learning.
Okay. Wow. I like that. Learn your flavor of learning.
Yeah.
James on YouTube wants to know, what are some potential challenges or limitations to consider when relying on AI for OSINT?
Oof. Oh man. I don't rely on AI. I don't rely on AI too much. I just use AI to make my thumbnails on YouTube. That's pretty much what I use it for. But I don't really use it too much. But oh man, that's a hard question for me. That's a hard question. I don't want to take too much more time.
He's like, nah.
That's fair.
Pass.
That's fair. You can call it. All right.
I mean, you use it or you don't. I mean, it's a tool.
Yeah.
Use with caution.
You either find a use for it or you don't. That's just how it is. Pat has limited use for it, and therefore that's his thing.
I don't really.
I'm not arguing. That's valid.
Yeah, I like it. It. All right, let's see. I've got Michael on Zoom. He asks, I'm experienced in IT, but not cyber. What are the best resources to get started understanding the field and its concepts? Books, courses, certs, IT Pro, ACI Learning.
Yeah. So ACI Learning, IT Pro TV, there's like, it goes back to that same question, right? Like, what is your flavor of learning? Do you enjoy learning? You know, and you have to find your person, right? Like, I'm going to be honest, my person was Keith Barker, right? Like, I loved the way he taught. I understood the concepts when he taught. So when I did my Palo Alto or my Cisco, him and Jeremy Chara, I love him, but he was a little, off the wall. But I just like Keith, so that's who I learned from a lot. So just learn,
I will say a really good book, if you're just looking for a book resource, is the Ultimate Kali Linux book. That's a great book, by the way. Got a lot of. You got a copy of it? Yeah, it's a must-have on your shelf. Yeah, I can't promote it more. I've talked to Glenn a couple of times. I did a review on the book. It's a great book.
Okay. Well, I'll keep that in mind for the next time I have time to read a book. Next one comes to us from Christopher on YouTube. Christopher says, Pat, who will you arm wrestle when you get to 100,000 subscribers? Daniel.
Unless you're Pat's probably gonna hit 100,000 subscribers in like 2 months. I will not be fight ready.
That's just too bad.
Yeah. And it's funny because I haven't lost yet, and I really want to get a challenge. So at DEF CON, if anyone's going to DEF CON, I'll be there in a couple of weeks. I do train every day, and it's not only about strength training. I'm doing wrist, I do like stuff with my wrist and like different techniques. So it's not about the strength. I've beat way bigger guys than me. So I don't know who I'll arm wrestle. Whoever's up for the challenge.
So, Patrick, I heard that you'll be at Wild West Hackenfest hopefully this year, maybe. And so, if you are, do you think there's a chance maybe you'll challenge John Strand to an arm wrestle?
Yeah.
Challenge him. Whether or not John will accept is another. Especially like, I love how Pat's sitting here. He's like, I train arm wrestling every day. John's like, I've never arm wrestled in my life other than like middle school.
And one thing to add on that, like if someone never arm wrestled, I don't go hard. I'm not going to break your arm.
It's a great way to get a spiral fracture.
Yeah. If you can move my arm, I'll give you $100. But yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think you should give it a go, Daniel.
If you ever want to watch like how a trained arm wrestler can just, without as much strength, not that they're not strong people, but like so Hafthor Bjornsson, one of the strongest men in the world, arm wrestles a guy named Devin Larratt, and Devin Larratt is probably half his size, and Devin Larratt easily, without even breaking a sweat, puts Hafthor on the mat like he's nothing.
And he whispers in your ear, "Come on,
let's go." He tells him, "Hey, look at me, as he takes you down." Right? That's what the techniques can do for you if you know how to do them and you train them. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, I personally am not an arm wrestler. I don't plan on ever being an arm wrestler. And
we're going to change that.
I think I'd be stupid to challenge anybody.
No. We're going to get you in there.
At all. Even somebody of my like stature and weight and stuff, I still think I'd lose.
Everybody needs to like bomb Sophia's LinkedIn, telling her that she needs to arm wrestle.
What are you telling people to do?
Start sending her messages, tag her in posts.
Oh boy.
Hashtag Sophia arm wrestling.
Oh boy. Well, that's all we had for those rapid fire questions. Really quick though, I know I mentioned that hopefully Pat will be at Wild West Hack Fest this year. I hear that he's a bit of a con junkie, and I also heard he got accepted recently for a talk and a workshop at a con coming up relatively soon. Is that true, Pat?
Yeah, B-side St. Pete. I'll be out there doing how to set up a pen testing lab, just like what we talked about before. So yeah, more details to come soon. Hopefully they send me some details, and yeah, that'll be fun. So if you guys are looking to come out to B-side St. Pete, I'll be out there.
Okay, B-side St. Pete.
Yeah. Any other cool things that you got on the horizons?
Yeah, aside from if we're talking about the cons, DEF CON, Wild West Hack Fest, B-side, and on the flip side of that, like studying from some certifications, the junior web app tester from TCM, the CRTP, hopefully I can get Dante done before DEF CON. I might start that on Monday because I'm going to Key West on this weekend.
Cool.
So I don't want to get like into the study mode and then like jump out of it. And yeah, that's pretty much what's on my horizon, and just do some content, continue content on YouTube. And yeah, Heath Adams will be on my channel tonight, so that would be fun having him on and picking his brain. So yeah.
Cool.
Wow. Sounds like Patrick's a bit of a busy bee. So.
Yeah, it's like you do things all the time.
Yeah, it's almost like you have a life. It's crazy. I do not know what that's like.
No, I know.
But we do appreciate, given your busy schedule, all you've got going on, that you took some time out to join us today. It's been great having you on as a first-time all things cyber guest. We hope we can have you back on in the future, hopefully.
A real pleasure, sir.
Been a real pleasure. Yeah.
Like,
the honor has been ours. But we hope that you enjoyed these questions as well. For everybody watching, thank you so much for joining us, and we hope that this webinar left you feeling strong. Check out today's Technado, new episodes every Thursday, and join us next month for another All Things Cyber. Have a great day.